Have you ever experienced a God wink? You know, the kind of experience you know without a shadow of a doubt that God stepped in and gave you a big old wink from heaven. I'm your host, Cindy Spar, broadcasting from Office Evolution in Troy, Michigan. I am the founder of My Collective Network and My Christian Business Network, two amazing business networking organizations. I am a firm believer that there is power in sharing God wink stories. Think of it as a way for people to shine their light on Jesus, one wink at a time. In Matthew 5:14, it says, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven." Welcome back, everyone. My name is Cindy Spar, and I am the host of the God Wink podcast. And today we have with us Martha. Is it Burich or Burich?
Burich.
Burich. Yes. Well, Martha, welcome to the God Wink.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Well, hey, Martha, I would just love for you to share a little bit about yourself, personal and professional, with our listeners.
Well, what can I say? Let's start with, I always already, Mom always loved my brother better, but that's a whole nother story. So, but you know what? Research does say that a lot of siblings, especially professional athletes, say that sibling rivalry is what spurred them on to greatness. So there's something to be said about that. Anyway, I had spent 10 years as a child psychology professor. I spent 16 years as a high school special education teacher. I have one child. He's grown now. My husband, I was married for 25 years. My husband died in 2008. He had liver cancer, 3 weeks diagnosis to death. And something interesting, one of the many interesting things about me, I must say, is I stopped watching television in 2008. I haven't had a television since then, and that's really one of the better decisions I've ever made.
I bet.
So that's just a little bit about me. I give parenting lessons. I'm called the parent's best friend. I wrote this book, Yes, You Can Raise Happy, Responsible Children. It's up on Amazon, and it's endorsed by Jack Canfield, the guy that did Chicken Soup for the Soul. Jack said this book has the potential to transform the lives of families worldwide.
Wow. We need just in the topic alone of kids, right? You just mentioned about how you don't watch TV anymore, and I cannot agree with you more. When I've never been a big person to sit on the couch for long. You can ask my husband. It's like you get like a couple minutes and then I'm out doing something. But the parents themselves, right, how they lead their family, they lead their kids, lead their spouses is so crucial. And I've seen time and time again, I mean, some families, they know every series that's out there, and their kids then end up oftentimes, not at all times, but oftentimes they end up following suit, like lots of TV watching, gaming, you name it, outside of actual interactions that are happening, outside of the home or getting plugged into activities.
And that's really interesting, Cindy, because what we're talking about here is instant gratification. When you spend a lot of time in mindless entertainment, what you're basically doing is you don't know how to say no to yourself. So you simply let other people control you because that television is controlling you, those TV shows, your phone, whatever it is you're addicted to, the games, whatever, and they are controlling you and really telling you what to think and do. It makes for, I would think, a dissatisfying life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and eventually, I know even my 12-year-old Joshua said, he was like, man, after a while, if I gain too much, I start to kind of feel yucky,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
they just started, they're getting ready to do tryouts for basketball. And he's excited because he's like, I just want to get out of the house. Like, I want to, there's still things you can do, even in Michigan, to stay busy and active, even if you
Mhm.
have cold weather. It's a choice,
Mhm.
like finding
Mhm.
things that you enjoy. And so he's excited. He got to the point where he went to just an open gym, drills and scrimmage type of thing for a couple hours, and he came home, and that kid was out like a light. but um but yeah, it's just, I think there's so much power, and I want to go back to your book on parenting, and how we're leading our kids, and are we saying yes to everything? Are we having our kids even have responsibilities in the
Mhm.
house? I, it makes a big difference. What is the age they say um, that kids really start to form their habits? Is there?
I think by the time the child is one, they should start doing chores. I mean, the first thing they're 6 months old, they can hand you something, can't they? Hand me the glass, mom will put it in the sink, dad will put it away. They need to start being a part of. The problem, family is the foundation of society. Healthy, happy families create healthy, happy societies. And
Mhm.
a lot of our problems today is nobody eats together, nobody does anything together. They sit at the table and look at the phone. One child told her, I heard a psychologist say, one child said to her, "I wish my mother paid half as much attention to me as she does to her phone." And it's really becoming a problem, or the television, or whatever else. When we talk to our children, we need to put devices down, look the child in the eye, don't just yell across the room. Stop, sit and have a conversation. Yes, and saying yes, we what happens if we never say no to a child, or rarely, they do not learn how to say no to themselves.
Mhm.
That sets them up for this constant, instant gratification. I want what I want, and I want it now, instead of learning that they need to delay gratification to get better things in life. Because if we can't say no to ourselves, well, then come the health problems, the overweight, the eating the wrong foods that cause us a lot of problems, hanging out with people who are not good for us because we
Mhm.
want that immediate gratification of excitement, hanging out, going to places, bars, wherever, parties that don't benefit us, staying up all night on the phone rather than doing our homework, rather than getting a good night's sleep so we can go to school or work refreshed and do our best. So yes, we have to learn to say no to ourselves. But if our parents don't know how to say no,
Mhm.
that's a problem. And
Mhm.
if they don't know, life isn't just get up, work, entertain, go to bed. No, entertainment is a special thing. And I just saw a documentary about the people who really founded America, the pioneers, who, they would go to St. Louis, Missouri, and they would get this wagon, a wagon of wood and iron wheels, and they would travel 1,700 miles. On a good day, they could go 20 miles on a good day
Wow.
over uncharted territory, and they couldn't sleep in that wagon. That wagon was filled with everything they owned. To sleep at night, they had to sleep on the ground underneath the wagon with rattlesnakes, scorpions, bugs, critters, who knows what else. Can you imagine? And then we sit here and we whine because the computer's slow. You know,
The Wi-Fi went out.
oh my God, what am I going to do? There's no Wi-Fi. Help, help. And these people, and then they had to go across these rivers. If the river was too fast, they'd lose everything. If the river was too deep, if it's just, I mean, the lives we live now of such relative comfort and ease, and here we are with our social anxiety and our problems and our, oh, what's going to happen to me? Me. That's called the bondage of self. We're
Yeah.
put on earth not for us, but to be useful to others. But we
Mhm.
don't, a lot of times we just don't realize that. And if parents are too concerned about their child being happy, they miss the point.
Yeah.
It's not our happiness is not the destination. Usefulness is always our daily goal. How can I benefit others and myself? How can I be useful? How can I be a good person?
You say the word happiness, and this just keeps coming up. It's came up in sermons lately. It's come up on social media, and there's this comparison that at Woodside Troy did one of the messages on Sunday was comparing joy to happiness,
Mm,
and it was kind of relating more with happiness as being like what the world offers you.
mm,
Joy is what the Lord offers you.
mm,
So it's like having a perspective of you can have joy even if you're in a valley. It's that you're choosing to have a mindset of gratitude, and it turns that thinking into joy, like honest to goodness, inner soul joy. And we actually have a podcast we're recording after ours today. He wrote a book on happiness and kind of goes into what is happiness,
What is that? Yeah.
Yeah, but and so kind of going back with this whole yes and no, in our family, uh, we had a conversation with cell phones. I mean, our kids, we didn't give them the cell phones. They're like about to be 13 and 15. And one of them purchased his own cell phone with his own savings because he works a job at McDonald's, which is even better, right? Like he's learning how to
Yeah.
be responsible. Well,
Responsible.
the think of how the siblings, brothers and sisters lead each other, because here Jacob, our 14-year-old, he works hard, he saves up his money at McDonald's, and then finally gets to purchase a phone and pay for his own service of that phone. The younger one sees this happening and he's like, well, I can't get a job. So he starts thinking entrepreneur in his head. He's like, well, what if I collected cans? And I just go throughout the neighborhoods in the area around 4th of July. There's going to be tons of them. So he goes on a mission and literally gets these cans, puts them in a igloo roll-away cooler, and makes trips back to the house. So he grinded this out, picking it all up.
Wow.
And I kid you not, he had returned the cans, and it came up to like $900 worth of bottle returns.
Whoa. That is one enterprising young man.
Yeah,
Wow.
he's driven, and the other kids started noticing because he'd come to their houses and they're like, what are you doing? He's like collecting cans, and they're like, for a charity or something, and he goes, well, no, I'm just collecting cans. And it was funny because one man said at the door, you should just tell people you're doing it for a charity. That sounds better. And my son's like, well, that would be lying.
That's right. That would be lying. And he's giving a service. He's giving a service for people who don't want to do it. Plenty of
Right.
people have plenty of cans. They are not going to return them themselves. It's a blessing that he's doing that.
And he took the higher road because he came home and he goes, should I be telling people? Like, what are they talking about? I said, you should never lie. I
Um,
said, tell the truth. And he goes, well, now my friends are starting to collect cans and they're lying and telling people that they're, doing it for a charity when I know they're not, because
yeah,
we all know each other. And I said, don't become the world. I says, just be honest with people. Let them know you're just working hard and you're a 12-year-old. You can't get a
because
job. So
when people hear the other ones basically betrayed them, they lied.
yeah. Yeah.
And then to have that on your conscience every day, knowing that you are doing something every day and
Mhm.
it's not right, it's underhanded. And yeah, that talk about destroy self-esteem and talk about immediate gratification. So because you want, filthy lucre, and money is a good thing, but to lie
Mhm.
for it and
Not worth
to
it.
be underhanded, not worth it.
No, and
Not on our
to even hear him go through this, he's like, for him to be open with me and say, "Should I be lying?" And I says, "Well, what do you think the right thing to do is?" And he's
Yeah.
like, "I don't think it's right. Like, I think I should tell the truth." But then what if all these kids get all the cans because they're saying they're doing it for a charity? I said, "It doesn't matter. You have the upper hand overall of knowing in good conscience you're doing the right thing." And so that's not even the first thing he ever purchased. He saved all kinds of money doing work, pulling weeds, and bought himself a full size trampoline in the backyard. He works
Wow.
hard. But the whole point behind it was we don't just give our kids things that, when
That's
they
great.
ask,
Yeah,
we
exactly.
teach them the power of the dollar and how, saving it makes it well worth it later on to not give yourself gratification right away, but actually, save for it. And the kids tithe. So they know the power of, like giving God what's God's and
Mhm.
he's like, this is hard, but I'm out of $900. I'm going to give that 10%.
It is hard, isn't it? Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah, but it's well worth it. Well, just going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Martha, you shared with me just an amazing God wink story of how God's moved in your life personally. So, listeners, sit tight and we will be right back with you.
Hey Godwink listeners, this is Joy Starr. If you're looking for a trusted partner to ensure your home is safe and sound, look no further than Win Home Inspection, a veteran-owned business proudly serving Detroit metro area for the past 5 years. With a heart for serving this Christian community, Win Home Inspection delivers top-quality, reliable home inspection services you can trust. As a partner of the Godwink podcast, Win Home Inspection is offering a special healthy home inspection for just $249, a 10% savings exclusively for our listeners on the Godwink. Simply mention the Godwink podcast when scheduling your appointment to take advantage of this offer. Whether you're buying, selling, or just maintaining your home, let Win Home Inspection give you a peace of mind. Call 586-500-0099 or visit our website within the podcast notes to book your inspection today.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Cindy Spar, the host of the Godwink podcast, and I'm just so excited to plug back in and have Martha share with us today her Godwink story. So, Martha, take it away.
I have many, but there's two, but I will start with this one. After I retired, I spent 10 years as a child psychology professor at the college level. And then for 16 years, I was a high school special education teacher. And then I retired. And very typical, when people retire, they become bored. And they become bored, and next thing you know, they start drinking. And then they can't stop drinking. It's almost a joke. It happens so many times. So this is exactly what happened to me. And next thing you know, I'm drinking every day, and I can't stop. I absolutely can't stop. I would try, and I just couldn't. And I would say, I'm not going to drink today, and it just didn't happen. So one night I was listening to a podcast, and the host said, I dare you to ask God to make you quit. And she was just talking about addictions in general. And I thought, no. I am not going to ask God to make me do anything, because that's how you wind up in the hospital or jail. So I thought, well, you know what? I'll ask him to help me. So I did. I prayed. I said, God, please help me. I'm still emotional about it. And immediately the thought came, well, go to AA. I thought, whoa. So I looked it up. I looked up AA on the computer, and there was a meeting 5 miles from my house the next morning at 10 in the morning. So I showed up there, and I haven't had a drink since, and that's been more than 6 years.
Wow. So immediately then you had no desire or anything? No.
Yeah, I just no longer drank. I no longer wanted to drink. And I remember at a meeting, I was about 2 months sober, and one man said to me, he goes, do you never get cravings? I said, no, I don't even think about it. Of course, I worked really hard. I went to meetings every day, and they told me, they said, all you worry about is today. That's all. You don't worry about anything you did yesterday, and don't worry about what's going to happen tomorrow. You just worry about being a good person today and not drinking. And that's your assignment.
And was there ever a time where you even took a sip?
Oh, no. Oh, my goodness, no. Oh, goodness. An alcoholic cannot take a sip. And it's the first drink that does the damage. When a train hits you, it's not the caboose that does it. It's the engine. No, a true alcoholic cannot take a drink. The first drink sets up. Then you have to have another. One's too many, 100's not enough. And then starts the cravings.
Did you have to hit rock bottom? Like when you were listening to that podcast, were you at your rock bottom?
Well, I was very fortunate. I didn't get in any trouble. I never drove drunk. I was very fortunate, but I guess in my life, being useless and not helping anybody and sitting there by myself with my bottle was for me a pretty low place because I was used to being useful and being helpful and being a teacher and helping people excel in their lives and do things that they didn't think they could. And then here I am, just useless and not using my brain, not using anything. So yes, for me, everybody's rock bottom is different, but that was mine.
And as far as like who you surrounded yourself with, did that have to change, or were you more keep to yourself when you would drink?
Yeah, I kept to myself. I didn't go to bars or anything like that. I stayed home alone and drank. So I didn't, I was very, in that way, I was lucky because a lot of people who decide that, their drinking isn't helping them any, they're surrounded by people who drink and do drugs and do, you have to really start looking at who you're hanging around with because if you don't step up, who birds of a feather flock together.
Yeah.
And that saying is there for a reason. You need to find new friends,
Yeah.
better friends.
Did the family even know? Like, could they sense that something was off or no?
Well, at the time, everybody, pretty much everybody by that time was already passed on. My grandparents, my parents, everybody. So there really wasn't anybody. I lived with my son. I lived with my son in his home, and so there weren't a lot of people to really tell.
Wow. So since it's been what, 6 years you said?
Yeah.
Since you had that last drink, how have you used your story or have you been able to help others with their addiction?
I go to the jail. Here's another God wink story. I go to the jail every Monday to talk to the addicts and the alcoholics. I volunteer, and I go to the treatment center every Wednesday and meet with the women on Mondays at the jail and at the treatment center on Wednesday. And here's how I got there. One day I go to AA and I was at a meeting and I was like, man, I'm bored. I'm bored. What am I gonna do? So when it came my turn for me to talk, I said, you know what? I'm bored. I got to have something better. I used to be a teacher. There's no challenge here. And the man across the table said, well, I'm on the corrections committee. Here's the application. You can go to the jail.
Wow.
Whoa. That's God. He was sitting right
Yeah.
there. That's one of those God things. Well, then, okay, so I start my meetings at the jail. The first woman there was someone I had known from the program, from AA, and who had gotten in trouble and had gone back to drinking. And she told me a story when she got released. She said that she had prayed every day for me because she had met me at a meeting and knew I was dependable. She said, please, God, let me be able to contact Martha. Let me be able to contact Martha. She'll be able to help me. And then she goes, and then one day you came walking in the jail.
Wow.
Oh, that
Gives
blew
me
me away. And now
chills.
she's been sober. Well, she's been sober 3 years and she's engaged to a very nice
Oh,
man. I
oh,
know.
that's wonderful. So
I
does
know.
she serve at the jail? I mean, I know she was at that
She
point.
lives in a different place. No, she's not in the jail anymore, but she does do a lot for AA and helps a lot of people.
Wow. Man, I tell you what, we talk about people that are public and have the addiction, but people behind closed doors, like, I mean, there's got to be so much addiction out there that we may not even know about,
Oh yeah, and it was
People,
made worse at COVID. Yeah.
yeah, like to be within the house and um I think in those in addiction too, it's hard to operate. I can tell the difference, at least if with people that I've known that have alcohol addiction, is if they're really, really happy and talkative, I know they're back at the bottle again. That's how I
Mm.
know. And it's sad because you don't want them to feel sad, right? Like to see them not very talkative and it just doesn't seem like they're happy with life.
but those are kind of triggers that I always observe, like, oh, I know this person's, been challenged with addiction and they're in like a really, really good mood. And sad enough, I hope that's because Christ transformed them. But at the same time, I'm like, I wonder if I need to be praying for them.
And it's temporary. That good mood is temporary because as soon as the alcohol wears off, and if they are alcoholics, it will cause problems. If not every day, it's certainly going to happen down the road. And yes, and then social anxiety is again bondage of self, and that's where that's why we need God. We need to talk to God, and we need to ask God to help us every day if you have social anxiety, because God gives us strength, and we need strength to get over ourselves. The only way out is through. And what that means is, are you afraid of people? Then you go to the grocery store and you look every person in the eye and you say good morning. You say hello. You start conversations. You do the thing you're afraid of, because otherwise you are constantly going to be trapped in this whole me, 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 me. What do people think of me? Oh, I made a mistake. How does that make you useful for anybody?
Yeah. Even in the networking world, you have people that they need to get out there and meet people, but they're more of an introvert than they are an extrovert. And I tell you what, the enemy really works within networking when it comes to happy hours and cocktails over networking. And, we think it's all innocent until it takes someone down gradually but surely. And I remember coming into it, I've never struggled personally with is like heavy alcohol addiction, because I didn't need to cover it. I'm more of an extrovert than I am an introvert, but I would watch people come in and, they would grab a couple beers just to try and take the sting off so they could relax more. And these past, especially in the past year, I feel like God's really asked me as a business owner of two networking companies, how do you shine a light? Are you going to do the same things? Are you going to even partner with organizations that, have cocktails, drinks over networking? Or are you going to be that option that allows people to find a way to network comfortably, right? And that was a shift. Like, we're going through it right now. People were like, oh, are you going to do this event that you used to do a couple years ago? And I said, no, because I would hate to be that person that caused someone to fall, even if it is just wine. I just don't want to be the one that causes them to fall back into it. And I want to create that culture movement to know you can come out, let's have a hot coffee, let's have a hot tea, let's have a hot cocoa, because God really does want to bless people, but we have to choose if we're going to go in a direction of drinking or in a direction of just genuine networking. So,
and an option, if you choose to not have the alcohol at your events, then you want to make sure that any newcomers get welcomed and somebody's there to talk to them, because that's what their whole thing is. They're afraid they're going to stand out like a sore thumb and be standing there and have no one to talk to and don't know what to do. So if someone comes up to them and introduces themselves and helps them, that really, really sets the stage for success.
Yeah, it's like, how do I use my connections in a strategic way? And especially when you see, I always look at disc styles. If you see someone's more analytical and quiet, I'm going to find somebody that will take that sting off and easily can get a conversation going without, feeling like they have to put effort in.
You have greeters at your events, don't you?
Yeah.
Greeted me. Yeah, made me feel very good.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah. Guest hosts. I'm like, who's an I? If you're an I, we're going to make you a guest host.
See, that's really good. So you take the introverts and make them the guest host or make them the greeters. And see, that gives them all something to do. And that's such a blessing.
It sure is. Well, were there any other God winks that we missed for today? I want to make sure I don't miss any of them.
Well, you know what? God is every day. I'll tell you another story. My brother was going to go to a meeting. Every Wednesday I go to the treatment center, but he goes to a different meeting. My brother's been sober 36 years. And so he was going to go to a gratitude meeting, and he had a pie because they were going to have a dinner. And he comes right back in the house. And I said, what happened? He goes, I have a flat tire. I said, well, I guess that means you're going to the treatment center with me. So he goes to the treatment center with me, and he sits in a group of men. I sit in a group of women. And I finish up with the women, and I noticed he's still sitting there with one fella. Somebody needed him.
Man, when one little thing happens that tries to take you away, could still proceed.
Somebody at that treatment center needed him because he's got 36 years of sobriety. He's got the information they need to know. Yeah.
Wow, so good. Divine intervention,
Mm-hmm.
Well, Martha, are there any particular scriptures of the Bible that are like Martha's scripture?
Yes, my absolute favorite is Matthew 17:20, and that is the one about the mustard seed. If you had the faith of a mustard seed, you could move a mountain, and that really is, at least it's my problem. Yeah, I have faith, but how much faith do I have? Do I have the faith of Robert Mueller, that man from England who opened the orphanages and trusted God to bring the food to the children every single day and to pay every bill?
Yeah.
No, I don't have that faith. I work at it, but I'm still working on it. So
yeah, Sharon Howard, a friend of mine, was just bringing that up. She's like, this scripture about the mustard seed just keeps coming up. She's like, I talk about it and then it shows up somewhere else. But I started telling my son that. I was like, if we have the faith of a mustard seed, whenever he says, I says, you want to pray? Let's pray about it. You can't find something? Let's pray about it. And he's like, oh, Mom. And I'm like, if you have the faith of a mustard seed.
And a mustard seed is 1 millimeter. 1 millimeter. It's like that. That's like the top of a pin almost. It's so small.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. Speak truth. That's what he says. Well, Martha, if our listeners wanted to connect with you or purchase your book, how would they go about doing that?
All right. Well, we'll start with the book is up at Amazon, so you can go to Amazon. I'm on Facebook, Martha Burich, and I'm on LinkedIn. I have my own website where you can learn all about my dog, because that's pretty much all I talk about on my website, marthaburich.com. I talk about my rescue dog and how we rescued him. I'm starting parenting lessons, starting in January. So you can find me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on my website, marthaburich.com. You can get my book, Yes, You Can Raise Happy, Responsible Children, at Amazon. And all this will probably be in the show notes, correct?
Correct. We got you. Well, Martha, thank you so much for being on the God Wink today. And listeners, I encourage you to connect with Martha. I think all of us as parents could use some sharpening of our saw. So I encourage you to purchase Martha's book. She really did put her heart and soul into it because God has gifted her, especially when it comes to parenting and being your parenting expert. So Martha, thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you, Cindy. Just loved it.
Have a blessed day, everyone, and we will catch you on the next God Wink.
I want to give a big thank you to Office Evolution Troy for providing their podcast studio for us this afternoon to record. If you have any questions or you would like to book your own time in their podcast studio, give them a call at 586-788-9966. If today's God Wink story really hit home with you, we would love to hear about it through the God Wink community on Facebook. If you know of someone that needs to hear today's God Wink story, show them some love and tag them on the God Wink podcast. You never know how a God Wink story might change their day around for the better. If you or someone you know has a God Wink story that the world needs to hear, we want to hear it. Simply click the link within the podcast notes to send in your God Wink story. Until next time, remember, God's got you. Wink, wink.